Hey, this is Corey. I recently reviewed my What Does It Feel Like to Have ME CFS video, and I realized I made a huge omission. I did not include the worst 5% because my own experience was going from mild to 5% functionality, both mentally, cognitively, and physically. And then now I have improved to about, on my best day, 20, maybe a little bit more percent physically and about 50% cognitively. And I didn't include the people who are the most severe, and those are the people who have the most trouble communicating. So I wanted to share what I could of their experience secondhand from what I have heard from them. So at worse than 5%, you likely need a feeding tube. You probably need a bedpan. Showering and bathing are out. You need wet wipes and dry shampoo, and may not even be able to have your teeth brushed very often. At worse than that, you don't have any kind of bathing for months. Just being wiped down with wet wipes would crash you horribly. Whitney Defoe is Ron Davis at Stanford, the famous geneticist who's working on the cure for ME. It's his son has severe ME, and he has since improved enough that he can type and read through Abilify. And he described having to communicate by paper towel, like taking a paper towel and crumpling it up and putting it on top of something that was difficult for him, or pointing an arrow out of paper towels to something that needed attention. And at that point, he was basically in a dark room with headphones on to keep the noise from someone walking outside the room out, and living in his own thoughts, trying to live in happy memories. And whenever somebody comes in to change the feeding tube or do the very few necessary things they need to do every day, it would crash him and be horrible. That is a living hell. You're living only in your brain, in the dark, without communication with other people, and your brain doesn't even work very well. But you know what's going on around you, and you know that life is going on without you. And it's the only way to describe it is living hell. And a lot of people in that range talk about assisted suicide a lot, understandably. And I know some people have done it. The suicide rate for ME/CFS is 7 times higher than the average, but I'm sure it goes way up in that group. I don't know if anyone's measured it. So just with Whitney, he's described even reading text involuntarily, like a logo on someone's shirt. His brain would just automatically read it, and that would send him into a really bad crash. Just his brain trying to process text. So that is what the very severe end looks like. On the milder end, you can, I thought maybe I'm just getting old. It took me like a month or two to recover from the norovirus that caused my ME, and that was what Dr. Chia basically said. Yeah, that's an indicator that that was the beginning of your ME, because norovirus usually you recover pretty quickly from. But then once I'd gotten back, I was never back to my 100%. So it's, at 90% or 80%. And I kept telling my doctor and my acupuncturist something seems wrong. I don't know what it is. And then I would be in a conversation with somebody and I would get sensory overload. But I didn't have an experience of sensory overload before, so I thought I was having an anxiety attack. But it put me into fight flight. Or I'd be standing up talking to somebody and suddenly I'd need to sit down on the floor because I couldn't stand anymore. And I didn't know why. Or, I did very intense workouts at the time at the circus center, and I'd be in my handstand class, and one week I'd be doing fine, and then the next week I'd go into a handstand and I would collapse and I couldn't hold my arms, which is just like ridiculous for me. It was terrifying. Or I just collapse, my legs would collapse. And after those occasions, I somehow got home and would be in bed for like a month. And I am very fortunate. I'm an artist. I work on my own schedule. And my husband's job pays the bills. I am very, very lucky in that. And so I was able to spend a month in bed trying to recover. But that, knowing now, that was a PEM crash, and I just didn't know what it was. But a lot of us, have, are single mothers with the only job in the family, and it's an impossible situation. It's impossible. So that is kind of the range of ME/CFS. There are lots of scales out there, but I really like the Hummingbird ME scale because it does a separate list for cognitive and physical, and it's very detailed in its description. My only gripe with it is for the wheelchair use, they assume an upright wheelchair, and I can do lots more in my reclining wheelchair. So yeah, I will link the Hummingbird scale below as well. And thank you.